Welcome back, everybody. Here we are with our new episode, and guess what? We have a new guest. He's all the way from Toronto, Canada, and I first time I met this individual is probably 2.5 years ago. And the day when I heard his story, I was almost in tears. And the day I like remember that definitely his story should be reaching out to you, and I think it's going to be really, really inspirational. And here we are, Tanvir Gill. Welcome to the show, Tanvir. It's over to you.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. And I also remember the time we first met. I think it was a few years back where we had a bit of a vulnerable share. We didn't speak too much. It was around the end of an inner engineering program. But I remember just feeling really connected to you over that brief exchange we had. So it was good. I remember that time.
Yeah, that was awesome. I mean, I still cherish those moments. On the other day, I was having a chat with Robert, and then I mentioned it, and he said he's he's having a powerhouse, and we should reaching out to him. His story is really impactful, and yeah, here we are. So I'm really, it's really honor and pleasure for me to like you are here, you are giving your time, and I think there are other people out there, and it's going to be really, really beneficial for them. So would you mind to start with a small introduction so that our guests can connect with you? Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm 29. I'm living in Toronto. I've been on this journey of personal development, spiritual growth for the past, since I was 21. I was kind of entertaining this and then kind of fully invested by the time I was 24, 25. And I felt like this was the sort of the turning point of my life. Prior to this, I was kind of an individual who was not really sure of himself, wanted to fit into, social circles, not really having this sort of clarity or purpose to my life. Purpose is the word that comes up for me right now because I felt like because there was a lack of purpose, I felt just kind of swayed by, you know, engaging in certain, behaviors or being around people that would make me feel better about myself. And when I hopped on the spiritual path was when things started to shift and, sort of investing in my growth. I started to value myself more. I started to structure my life more. I started to kind of, the purpose came back. Purpose was what I was missing. And I felt like with spirituality, with inner engineering, the purpose came back and that kind of, it put things in a different perspective for me.
Impactful. So you mentioned about something. I'll go back to you. You mentioned something really interesting, purpose. Yeah, often we hear about this term. People say, uh, like, should we have a purpose for the life? Is there any purpose for life, or is just living? Or I mean, there is a huge debate, and you would also agree. So yeah, there is. I mean, let's start with this. I mean, definitely it's a nice point. Point you are bringing it up. How do you define the purpose, and how much it is crucial in like any individual's life?
Yeah, great question. I think purpose is like foundational for you to kind of create anything of value in the world. I think, at least for myself, when I've got connected to source, when my mind has become quieter, I've kind of created this gap between my mind and my body,
Hmm.
or myself, my mind and my body. There's a bit of space that opened up, and I think from that space it's just a lot easier to take inspired action. Whereas I would do things prior to kind of to fill some kind of void. And again, this is like an ongoing process. It's not that I've kind of come to some kind of completion. But I feel like when you begin to find out more about yourself and you become, more connected to something beyond the body and the mind, you can also recreate a different identity. Because I know for myself, I was kind of I believe myself to be a certain type of way for so long, like kind of, repressed and shy and timid. I never put myself out there. I
Hmm.
was always kind of avoiding social interactions. I was always like kind of not finding my fullest expression. And I felt like this is just the way I was. And of course, like uncovering certain just doing this work, um, getting more centered, getting my mind more quiet. Purpose is like a natural consequence of that. And it's not that it's like some kind of God-given purpose. It's just that when you're aligned, when your mind is more quiet, when you have the necessary energy, then you take action according to that. You take action according to what's in your best interest. Whether, for example, right now I'm looking to build my coaching practice. It's a lot easier to do that when my thoughts, my emotions, and my actions are aligned and moving towards that direction. Whereas if I'm scattered and my mind is noisy and I'm kind of
Actually.
ungrounded and just kind of just going with, yeah, then it's hard for me to take steps in that direction. So I think it just makes it easier to take action,
Mhm.
to create the results that you want, and just and because also the biggest thing is because you're not seeking happiness from these things. It's like you address the happiness aspect first.
Mhm.
Spend time with yourself. You connect to yourself,
Okay.
and then you take action. It's completely different than you're not in this like chasing it like it's out there kind of thing.
Okay. I mean, yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, you said something success. I mean, sorry, purpose, which basically like it's a realigning your mind and your uh, activity you want to do, and like of course with your life. And then you said something happiness. You are not getting happiness while you are doing that thing. How do you relate? I mean, the purpose and with the happiness, like what kind of activity we are doing. Of course, maybe someone is earning their living, or maybe a lot of people, they hate the job they're doing, they're fighting the traffic to get into the job. I mean, how do you relate with both the things? This is really something powerful, I think.
Yeah, so I've kind of seen coaching as my way,
Hmm.
um, because I know my spiritual path is the number one priority in my life.
Hmm.
And I've always had this desire that I don't want to, be somebody who's doing the 9 to 5 kind of, just, checking the time. When is my shift going to end? I come home and kind of
Yeah.
dreading the experience of going through my day-to-day life. I've always wanted to do something of my own. And I feel like when coaching became something that was a possibility, like, wow, this can be something where, I'm in a container with somebody. I'm not solving problems for them. I'm creating the space. I'm listening. I'm asking the right questions. And I can also use that as a way for me to understand more about myself, because a coaching container is not necessarily like you're not teaching somebody, like you're also learning at the same time is what I mean to say. It's not that you're kind of, you're Sadhguru and you're coaching people and you're giving them advice, and it goes both ways. Like I'm learning at the same time as I'm coaching. So I'm thinking, wow, so this can be something where my growth and my pursuit of spirituality is still at the main focus, and it can actually be enhanced through coaching. So
Wow.
I've always leaned towards that, and I feel like because I've wanted that, it's just a lot easier to make it happen, because you know that your main purpose is still what it is, and now you have the necessary means to also, earn a living and impact people, and also, move ahead in other areas of your life as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's somewhere is aligned like with what you're doing, right? Because you said in your spiritual journey, spirituality is the main priority, of course, and at the same time, you are trying to evolve within yourself, and you're also trying to share that same thing in some way with others, and it's definitely helping you, and I mean, helping you to reshape your life, and you are also learning some others as well. So what I was saying is, you shared something because spirituality is the first priority in your life, which you mentioned, and which should be. And then second thing you said, at the same time you are going out there and helping someone else, not necessarily by a guru or by a teacher. You are not teaching because it's not reinventing the wheel. You are just using the same the inbuilt quality you have. You're just sharing that thing with someone else, and some way you are also guiding them. And I'm pretty sure that this is really is high demand in West, because you probably know better than me because how people what kind of situation people are going through, what kind of misery and stressful conditions they are in. So would you like to talk something about it? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I want to firstly, I want to speak to something you said because you said something very interesting about, I think even with coaching, it's a lot of the same questions that I'd be asking myself to grow spiritually,
hmm
understanding, where I'm limited, some like patterns, understanding more about myself by asking the right questions to myself. Those are the same questions that I would kind of put in a coaching container to somebody else. So I think it's the beauty is you're also like it's pretty much like you're working on yourself, but you're kind of because we all have the same human mechanism of thought and emotion. You can understand if where if somebody's limited in a certain way and you've kind of also been limited in a certain way, but you've found a way to overcome that, then you have the
right.
necessary means to help somebody unravel that for themselves in a container. And then I want to speak to also, coaching for me. I've been in this kind of understanding before that I didn't need coaching, and because I have Sadhguru, I have these tools, it's not necessary. But what I came to understand when I went to the ashram was that there was many things that I observed about myself
hmm
and through observing other people that the sadhana for me it felt like it's not enough in the sense that there's some things that coaching has showed me, my
hmm
mentors that I've worked with, they've showed me things about myself that I wouldn't have gotten from sadhana. And this is not to discredit sadhana, because sadhana is a complete package. Sometimes somebody, depending on the person it is, might need a different approach, right? And
Right.
I noticed
Yeah.
that for me, it's coaching and spirituality both. It's like, wow, these two things are taking me in that direction. So
Mm.
um, I don't want to close my window to one specific way being the only way. And that's what I invite the viewers to do as well. It's not that, be like fixated on one path and this is the only path. You can, if the goal is the same, you can have many means to reach there. Yeah, and I just think
Right.
that, yeah, what was your question, the follow-up question that you had?
Yeah, I mean, you said really, I mean, this is so important because I think some way because spirituality is just empowering you. After doing your sadhana, everything is just empowered you in a some way that you realize that this is my strength and the way I'm growing within me, and I can also help out there someone who is probably in need. And yeah, so my follow-up question was, how do you see that? Because, like you said, you are helping someone out there. Probably they're also going through some sort of situation in their life, uh, and I'm pretty sure, like people are around the world, like you will find miserable people. There are people in stress, anxiety, all kinds of stuff they are facing. So, what kind of experience you have when you are going outside and helping your clients, for example? Uh, like the existing experience you have, the same experience you are sharing with them, and what what are their feedbacks you see usually.
I think a lot of it comes down to, how bad do you want it to get before you decide to change? I
Mhm.
I know my experience going through what I went through with mental health, bipolar disorder, being medicated, many times contemplated suicide, many times kind of was in like the lowest of the low. For me, when I found Sadhguru and I found, the spiritual path, was like I had no other choice because I didn't have time to be continuously doing the other stuff because my health was at a complete rock bottom. And I realized for myself that the main focus right now is my health and my
hmm
happiness. And I have to do
hmm
whatever the hell it takes to make that happen. And Sadhguru came into my life, the tools came into my life, and with certain consistent practice and doing the right things, disciplining myself around my food, when I eat, when I sleep, when I started to take care of these things, then I noticed things started to shift. And so for me, it's like the question I ask people or what I observe in people is like, when do you want to start to change? When do you want to put your attention on this path? And most times it's when people hit rock bottom that they are open to a different possibility. Otherwise, they'll continue to do the same stuff. Maybe they'll do a couple weeks of, they'll have a working out routine or they'll meditate for a couple weeks and then they'll fall back
right.
because they have been sufficiently thrashed by life, at least from what I understand. Um, most people I speak to, even from the ashram, it's so interesting. Like you see so many people in the ashram who are on this path, and they were. I was speaking to one of my brothers. His name's Oliver, just yesterday, and he was speaking about his journey of, he was somebody who was a drug addict, and he was like, you would never think somebody like that would come to Sadhguru and be on the spiritual path, and now he's doing his practices, and but it took a certain, like, being at a certain low for somebody to wake up to a different possibility, and those are the kind of, yeah, that's usually the one way I see that usually it works out.
Yeah, I mean, this is something. I mean, I would like to, if you could share, a little bit in detail. Uh, so, what are the main reasons that people get into that kind of route? And uh, I'm sure, I mean, it's not most of the time the individual's fault. Like, what could be other like a circumstantial situation could be, or like, is there other than the individual, others like, is there society, or like, what are the main factors would you like to outline that which is bringing people into that kind of phase in their life?
Yeah, great question. I think it's has many factors. I think, societal conditioning of could be one, or is one. Um, the
Hmm.
lack of safety you probably feel at home, because I know I didn't feel safe in my home, and I wanted to feel safe and belong to certain. That's why I wanted to fit in school, because I didn't get that safety at home. So, which
Hmm.
led me down the path of drinking and smoking, just always looking for like validation and approval. And I initially started to do these things out of a certain desire for people to like me. It's like if I drink, if I smoke, I'll be accepted. And then after it becomes a coping
Social
mechanism, it's
approval.
like anytime you don't want to deal with any kind of stress. Yes, yes, social approval. And after a while, it becomes like a coping mechanism. It becomes a thing you do anytime you feel any kind of stress or discomfort. You have,
Hmm.
drink. And again, I've been shifting out of this mode as well, because I've been kind of putting people in boxes. Like these people are people who drink and smoke and they don't care about their personal growth. And then, if I want to be committed to my growth, then I have to stay away from these people. So I've like
Okay.
casted a judgment on them, and I've recently started to be more accepting of other people, because I understand that, spirituality and personal growth is not like the only thing about a human being. Like there's other aspects of human beings. Like people can be wonderful even if they're drinking and smoking. There's nothing against that. But I'm just saying, for me and my life, I was doing this to fit in, and society was kind of pushing me in this direction that if I want to be, if I want to stand out in school, I want to be somebody who's respected, then I have to engage in these behaviors. And so it just became initially became that, and then after that became a coping mechanism. And I think a lot of people can relate with that. Is, if this is all you're exposed to, if in your environment you're exposed to people drinking and smoking, you think that this is the norm and this is the only way to go on about having a good time. And I know for myself, I realize now that I'm much more open now than I ever was in previous years of my life when I was drinking and smoking. And of course, again, there's still work to be done. I'm not like completely free, but I can tell over the course of the past 5 to 7 years, the level of freedom has been slowly, slowly opening up. And my ability to express myself is slowly coming out more and more without any drink or smoke. So I think even Sadhguru having has said many times, and even the way he lives his life, he's somebody I look at as an example of, wow, this person doesn't need any kind of substance, no drink, no nothing. He's just like full on everywhere he
Yeah,
goes.
no intoxication at all.
Yeah. So that's like the ideal for me. It's like I want to work towards that, and it's slowly sort of working its way in that direction. So I would just say to the youth, observe whether this is really in service to you. Like, are you doing it for a way to escape a certain experience? Are you using it as a way to escape the instability in your mind or your emotions? Or are you doing it, maybe you're centered and you're grounded. Maybe it's something you do once in a while. Maybe it helps you loosen up at a party or something. Depending on what you want to create for yourself. Do you want to create an inner situation where your mind and your emotions, like your inner chemistry takes instructions from you? Then you would do the necessary things to cut out certain, stimulants and things like that to kind of get your life more structured and on track.
I mean, yeah, thanks for outlining that because you pretty much covered so many aspects of it. You said society is one of them, and I think that society plays a major role. I mean, I think you will also agree with that. And then we have schooling system, the education system, and somewhere. Do you also feel like the kind of lifestyle we are getting into, like if you said someone is exposed to in such conditions like maybe alcohol, maybe smoking, drugs, all kinds of intoxication. So, do you feel like something we have done significantly wrong, maybe with the society, or maybe like how would I say, maybe like as a culture, we have adapted that culture, and we are like you said, people feel like they're so okay with that. They feel like being in intoxication and being in smoking and drugging is like it's okay, it's a normal norm. So, like what would be like have we already developed some certain kind of culture and then we adapted it and now we feel like yeah, here's a catch 22, we can get rid of this.
Absolutely, that's exactly what it is. I think even in the movies, like if you look at the movies, I know me being a Punjabi male, it's like for us in the movies and everything I've exposed to is like drinking is a, if you're Punjabi, you have to be somebody who drinks. So it's,
Yeah,
and if you don't drink, then you're all of a sudden you're an outcast. You're somebody who's like, people don't know what to do with you. They don't know what box to put you in.
it's a
And
norm, bro. At the
exactly.
end of the day.
And then, in the movies, even there's so many times I've recently observed this in Indian and Punjabi movies especially. It's like there's a scene of a guy who's like he's completely drunk and like he's all over the place. People need to carry him around and he's got the like he's not clear in his voice, like he's speaking but you can't understand what he's saying. And then his wife is coming and she's like, "Ooh, like you're always drinking," and like she's kind of like giving him a hard time and he's just like, "Oh, you don't know anything," like he's kind of just being dismissive. And it's like I've seen that play out so many times in my household and in just people that I know, my family, my cousins, my friends who are Punjabi and who have the same kind of situations. It's like the guy is completely drunk and then the lady's just kind of running behind him trying to get him to understand, "Hey, you idiot, what are you doing with yourself?" And like, right? And I say this because like the programming from the movie is like what you see in real life as well. In
Movies, I mean, till today, even though we have social media, all kinds of stuff, I mean, movies, they play a vital role in our life. I mean, they have a huge impact, I mean, all across the world.
right,
Especially you mentioned about Bollywood movies. The way I see India is right now is grooming, I would say, is absolutely is alarming. I mean, person like me who lived in abroad, and like once I come back to India and once I see the way India was before a decade ago, now, I mean, it's a complete huge shift. I mean, you will be amazed that once you come and visit big cities like India, Mumbai, like Bangalore, Hyderabad, Delhi, all kinds of big cities, even tier 2, tier 3 cities, they are trying to adapt West. I'm not against West and Western culture or everything. I'm saying there are so many good things to adapt, so many good things to get inspired with. Instead of that, people are just getting, so much catchy with other stuffs and they're just adapting without being even understanding the consequences. Like you mentioned, people they're feeling like being into, exposed into alcoholic smoking stuff. It's normal norms, which is anyways happening here too. And cannabis, marijuana is something, it's not legal yet, but backstreet people are doing it. So, uh, I mean, if you think like India is, I know you are also somewhere rooted to Indian origin, so I think you'll be able to resonate with this question because we are being like one of the world's largest population, of course, and I think one of the largest, the young population we have is close to 600 million. So it is a huge number. I mean, in one way, we can show the right direction to the world, or in another way, we can, rewind it. So I think it is definitely it's a responsibility on us, probably a generation's responsibility, in order to at least for ourselves, like you said, instead of taking it for granted and taking assuming that okay, this is normal, we should start doing self introspection, like what you have started back in the day, and then somewhere you realized with the help of your intelligence that something is going wrong. Probably my family, my society, my relatives, my school, I don't know. But you somewhere you understood. Like, so what could be the best advice? Like, how if one, let's say, is somewhere someone is suffering from this, or maybe someone has just gotten into it, how one can, self introspect, and what would be the guideline or steps? Because I think you have the approach to share with
I
others.
think the first thing is to just ask the right questions to yourself. Ask yourself whether the path that you're on, whether you're engaged in, whatever it is, whatever activity, just ask yourself whether this is actually in service to you, or is this something that has like a negative effect later on? And is it something you're depending on for your well-being? I think when you start asking these questions to yourself, and then you kind of observe also for yourself other people. Like I remember for me, I was in a position where I couldn't be drinking because I was medicated. And if I was drinking with the medication I was taking in my early 20s, then it would kind of increase the effects of the disorder, you can say, or the instability I was experiencing. And so
Right.
because I had that time away, I couldn't be drinking and smoking with the friends that I had previously because I was now medicated and now I was sitting at home. It gave me the time to look into other ways.
Hmm.
I kind of built a routine. I'd go to work, and because I was spending so much time with myself at that point, and I don't think this is the only way, but this is the way that worked for me, is like because I spent so much time with myself and, watching YouTube videos and stumbling across, personal development teachers and speakers and coaches, and then Sadhguru at some point, and just
Hmm.
kind of I had a different perspective. I'm like, wow, there's a whole different world of people living in a completely different way. And when you start to see that, and you start to
Right.
see people embodying a different level, different way of being, then you start to think, wow, like if I was to look at, for example, like I'm taking the extreme example, like if you look at Sadhguru and I look at the people, and like if I look at Sadhguru and look at the people in my life who have given me guidance in the past, I
Hmm.
observe who's really living a more quality existence. And for me, it was clear that there's a different way because
Right.
this person is showing me he's living it. I think the
Hmm.
biggest thing, I think we're coming to a stage now where information now is not gonna transform people now. Now we're coming to a place where the more you see somebody embodying a different way of being, I think it comes back to people pick up on that. People resonate with, people see that okay, this individual is living a completely different life without any of
Right.
this stuff. Then it kind of opens your world and then you start to take steps in that direction. So I think the biggest thing for people is to like firstly ask the questions and become open to a different way of existing. And then you'll get your answers from there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Really well said. It is really important to spend some time with ourselves in order to understand the pattern we are going through, and then how we can change this paradigm. There's something fundamental we have done wrong. Like you said, maybe could be parenting, could be guidance from the elders, probably didn't work out. So, yes, in this case, if there is someone who is living, the heightened level of life, which could be you know, the benchmark for other people might feel like he's living, he's a superhuman, he's living like people human being can live life and live life like this. I mean, yeah, then definitely we should have such person in our life as an inspiration. I want to get back to the previous answer you gave. You said the Punjabi movie, Punjabi culture, and then and drinking all kinds of stuff. Like, I think you will be able to resonate with this, especially in North America. I'm not going into England. I mean the UK, the Europe part, and the Australia. I'm not going there. let's talk about only North America. In Canada and US, majorly, I mean, the population we have are Punjabis, especially the Indian origin. How do you see, like, there is this, I mean, there was a shift, I think you will also agree. And now that shift, what you're saying, I mean, it's significantly, I mean, the society, they are trying to adapt the, rap culture, pop culture in a such a way that something we are doing fundamentally wrong. Like you said, you already gave some examples. I mean, what could be the main thing we have done wrong? And is there any, I mean, I'm talking about only those NRIs and those Indian origin immigrants, those are living in North America. Is there any way for them to, they maybe they can also, introspect and they can also choose the route you have chosen for yourself?
I think it's just about like I'll speak to an example actually. Just recently, I've seen videos of Diljit Dosanjh. He's Punjabi and he's
Yeah,
like now on the spiritual path, and he's kind of
right.
speaking, being connected to source, and he's speaking about shunya. And I've seen him kind of meet. I'm not sure if he's done inner engineering. I think
He has
he
done, I guess. He has
I think
done. I listened to him on one podcast. He was mentioning about his experience. I think he has done during COVID time, during lockdown. He has done, and then the guy I never heard about talking about yoga, and he has been giving advices to the youth. Everybody
yeah.
should do yoga. So yeah, please continue. Sorry for the interruption.
Yeah, no, I think I was just highlighting that example because I think, you know, just somebody like that who's kind of recognized and kind of admired by Punjabis, I think that's a big thing to somebody is speaking that way and you kind of you see that there's a certain clarity that he has. There's a certain presence that he brings with him. I heard him speak. I never really paid too much attention to his music and, his life prior, but it just caught my attention when I heard him speaking about yoga. And so
Right,
I think having mentors, having guides, who are showing you a different way of living, I think that's the biggest thing. And I think it just comes back down to when you're so invested towards like being distracted, then it becomes a really big challenge to come out of that because there's a certain, like I said, investment and you're comfortable being distracted. And it's in the beginning stage, it's easier to just continue to do that than to take a step back and look at how you're living your life. I think that's the biggest thing is that, to not be walking around with this kind of certainty that this is the only way or I know how to live my life. People have just made conclusions about themselves and how they are, and they kind of think that they're just like this because of fate or whatever the case may be. So I think it's
right.
important to see that, there might be something different. And again, coming back to just asking yourself questions, um, exposed to different content, different speakers, body teachers, that'll really create a shift for you.
I
Um,
think yeah, there is, I mean, something interesting point you have mentioned. I would like to connect with, I'd like to connect the dot because you mentioned about the Punjabi culture. I mean, so, I mean, in India, as you know, we have almost all communities are living here and it's for centuries. So when it comes to the religion, I mean, how much do you think that religion is also playing some sort of impact in one's life in one way or other, and how that could be a useful tool. I mean, if someone wants to use in their spiritual journey.
you're speaking specifically with religion, how it relates to spirituality.
Yeah, yes, yes.
Um, I personally think that there's like limitations to it, and also it creates some kind of like, I guess you can say, something to fall back on when,
Mm.
maybe you think.
Dogma, you're saying?
Yeah, I think it's like a dogma, and I think it's also like it can be, but I think there's limitations to it because I think when you're coming from a space of like believing something, I'm gonna use the word believing because when you have that, then you're not open to anything new, and you're not actually seeking a different like possibility because you're so fixated on, okay, my way is the way, my religion is the religion, but there's like a contradiction in itself because religious religions speak all about like unity and
Right,
connectedness, but the very fact that you're identified with a specific religion you're automatically going to be opposed to other religions because you're identified with your religion. So I think there's a contradiction in itself. But I think when you're a seeker, when you're like genuinely seeking and you're
Mm-hmm.
not believing anything, then you
Mm-hmm.
actually get connected to what all these religious texts are speaking about, because now it's your own experience. It's not something you picked out of a book and now you're kind of regurgitating it to somebody else.
Right.
So I think
Right.
that's the biggest kind of thing that I've seen, because I was always opposed to religion because I realized early on that the people that were speaking to me about the religion that I was born and brought up in were not
Mm-hmm.
living the principle. They were not living to the standard that I thought that they were preaching to me. My questions internally were now, of course, I started voicing these questions to the people that have been projecting these ideas on me. And when you start voicing and asking questions, then people stop because they realize, okay, I can't be
Yeah.
continuing and kind of convinced to pursue the
Yes.
path. But I realized this earlier on is like I didn't see any kind of these people living what was in the books. And this is not just to kind of say, Sikhism. I think this is with all religions. Like all
All
people
right.
like identified with religion, they kind of think that their way is the only way. And yeah, so I asked these questions and it made me realize that I want something different. I want something that's like genuine, and then that's
Mm.
when I found my own path.
Absolutely. I mean, you touched something significant because you said people, those who are preaching, they're not following themselves. And then how do we follow as a follower? And as a kid, I mean, it's really hard for someone to understand, to differentiate the thing. I get it what you said. Like people are so incongruent in their nature and themselves even don't follow those principles and what they're teaching. But at the same time, mass number of people, they're trying to adapt it, and then I think somewhere it, like you said, religion, then it become uh, that it just became a roadblock, and maybe it becomes the source of so many conflicts in one way or other, because there are religions today in this world. They are so much identified with this. I mean, what's happening around the world, right? You see what is happening for past 2 3 years, and then it's something new. Like I don't think so it's something new. It's been happening for years, and I think Isha Foundation and Sadhguru, his vision and all work is towards that thing. People from religion to bring them to the spirituality, and then one can identify with the bigger thing. I mean, instead of identifying with the some small identity, and they can see the bigger picture. And I think it's all about that thing. Once they become realized, instead of getting entangled with one thing, they can utilize religion for their own personal spiritual growth. I think if one definitely understand that, rather than getting entangled with it, and just there's no competition. It's everything is about us. Everything is just improving ourselves. There is no competition with anyone, right? Essentially, if we see, there's no competition with outside. So everything is with here to enhance this one, and then in a such a way that people should embrace, and people, if people like it, that people will take you as an inspiration, and rather than putting and imposing something on someone, which is happening, by the way. Anyways, like my question was related to that thing, like how you see, so even like if I talk about religion, even many people are they're kind of derailed. Not even, if you only talk about the rituals, they are not even following the rituals. If I talk about I mean, specifically in West, people are living in West, specifically from Indian origin. They don't even, they just do it for the sake of doing it. You know what I mean? I mean, just to showing off and sharing the pictures with social medias, and they feel like, yeah, I'm just doing my duty. So I think somewhere they are also defaming religion as well. Like you said, whatever is written in the book or the text, if these things people even following them, then I think there is a great value if people are following them. I think that thing is also not being done, and somewhere they just took it for granted, and then now religion is taking turning to something else now. uh, so what would be your I mean best advice for the for someone is probably in early 20s, or they were maybe their mid 20s, because there's something called midlife crisis, quarter life crisis. I never heard about these terms before I got into North America. I never heard about these terms. In India, we don't get that much time. Like all the time, someone is there to poke you, family, friends, relatives. So not that much in isolation. So, anyways, how do you define that, and how do you outline for someone who's listening to you, probably in their age, maybe from India, maybe from you know from North America, and they can listen to you and they can feel like, okay, if Tanvir can done, like he has done it, so that there's something I can also do it for myself. If someone is already there in that kind of phase.
Yeah, I think there's many components to it, and it's going to tie into much of what I've been saying throughout the podcast.
Mhm.
I think there's a component of being fed up with the life that you have, coming to a place of just being radically honest with yourself and seeing that, okay, I'm not where I want to be, and I'm going to be honest with myself. Like, I'm at rock bottom right now, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get out of this position. So having that level of radical honesty with yourself, having mentors who show you a different path, having dedicated time spent by yourself reflecting, and then of course like being in a community, which is the next, like, which is great to be around other people who are also kind of showing you a different path and showing you that they've been working on themselves, and you can see their growth that's happening in real time. It inspires you to also grow. And also the biggest thing is to just kind of take control of your life. I think that's what appealed to me the most. I think the word responsibility and freedom, they go hand in hand. It's like I realized that to the degree in which I take responsibility for my life is the degree to which I can
Mhm.
live the kind of life that I want, a life of freedom, in every area, like, financially, spiritually, in my relationships. I realized that the more I'm honest with myself and I reflect and I see where I'm not showing up to the standard that I want, I can change that. It's so empowering for me to see that now. Like, this is something I've been seeing over the past, like I said, 5, 6 years doing this work. And that has been something that I continue to have as like a reminder. It's like, wow, I've grown so much and there's still so much growth potential that's there. And I want to continue to
Right.
go on this path and see who I can become in the next year, 2 years, 3 years. I want to kind of build myself. And so that becomes my obsession now. That becomes like my sort of path, and that keeps you busy. And this goes back to having a purpose. The purpose for me is just to continue to grow, to continue to evolve mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. Maybe not so much physically, but again, like just
Mhm.
kind of enhancing myself, I mean to say,
Right.
in every
Right.
way.
Yeah. Physically, I mean, doesn't mean like you'll become next bodybuilder. Of course not.
Right.
Physically means, yeah, just to be, ill-free. You're living a healthy life. Yeah, that's exactly. And then, yes, I mean, so you have pretty much outlined. You said, being, able to spend time with yourself, and then try to prioritize what you need, well, like what exactly you need to do in your life, and then
I'm gonna just
having.
add something. I don't mean to cut you out, but I feel like those two tie in. It's like if you spend time with yourself, the clarity and the purpose will come out of you spending that time with yourself. So I think they go hand in hand.
Yeah, I mean, it's a consequence. I think if you spend with time with yourself, you will have more clarity and you will have the purpose in life. Yeah, yeah, very well said. So yeah, so these are the pro tip, guys. Like Tanvir is saying, just spend time with yourself. You will have the more clarity in your mind. Probably will guide you. What is your purpose in life? And then finding a guru or coach or any, I mean, someone who has already walked that path and could be a helping hand for you. And then last thing he said, something being committed, being fully involved in it, because it's about all about, it's about my life, it's about your life. So it's not about my family, my relatives, society. No, it's just about us. Society is just made of individual beings. If we can fix ourselves, society will get fixed eventually. like these are the pro tips he's sharing, and like you are listening to someone who has already walked that path, and he has, I think he has shared only 20% of his story. I mean, he went through really those immense struggle, suffering, stress, and today the person you are seeing is completely different person. It's feel it almost like a someone went through a rebirth process, and here we are. So
Thank you.
it is doable. Yeah, I think it is doable because you are a real example and real inspiration for many other youths, and this is the main reason I wanted to, you to come and share your story. But of course, if he can do it, guys, you can also do it. It's all about, sometimes it's not even our fault, we just get entangled and derailed with the mainstream life process, and then yeah, and here we are. This is the main purpose of being, having the podcast and reaching out to the people, and in some way helping them. It's probably if one person can, resonate with this, implement whatever Tanvir has shared, I think it's going to be really immenseful.
Beautiful, man. Beautifully said. And I think you've been a great. You've asked the great questions. You've listened keenly. I think you're doing great, man. You're taking steps as well and growing yourself to become more and more competent in doing podcasts and any other endeavors that you have in life. So I appreciate you as well, man.
Of course, brother. Thank you so much. Pleasure is mine, and it is just a beginning, and there will be. In future terms, I definitely would love to know about more about you, your journey, the growth, the path you are walking, and the experience you are gathering. And I know you are also visiting next week, Austin, US, right? So you are also meeting Sadhguru. I mean, it's again, it's a like once in a lifetime kind of moment. You are definitely in the right path, bro. And I wish you all the best and for your future endeavors and the coaching career you are into, and keep coming and sharing with us, so many great stories, and so that like our listeners, they may also get you know inspired from you, and they can also do something better in their life.
Absolutely, man. I love to be back on, and I love to speak to you soon, man. All the best, bro.
All right, thank you. Namaskaram, bro.
Namaskar, man. Take care.
As well.